Now in today's video, we're going to be looking at my favourite transfer targets ahead of Game Week 9. Of course, we're also going to be running through all the key data you need as well to make the best decisions this game week. Now, before we dive into today's video, I just want to say that we are ridiculously close to hitting 10,000 subscribers. I think we're only around 500 people away. So if you are enjoying the content that you're seeing on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, that one being the main one to help us hit that milestone, because I would be extremely grateful. And if we could do it by the end of the month, that would be even better. First off, let's start off taking a look at the the Fantasy Football Hub goals and clean sheet odds for the next game week as well. I do feel this is a really useful tool for looking at maybe just individual game weeks, as I do feel sometimes we get lost kind of looking longer term with our picks and stuff like that, and sometimes it might be better just to focus in on 1 week, and maybe it does help you with in terms of benching decisions and captaincy decisions as well going forward into the next game week. Obviously, Manchester City, Southampton will be the standout fixture for that one. We'll also come on to see really good projected goal numbers and clean sheet data predicted for that one from the 11-5 models a little bit later on, but that's going to be the standout fixture for game week 9 as well. Definitely an opportunity to be going and captaining, not only captaining, triple captaining Erling Haaland in that one, so that definitely looks like a tasty fixture we want to be targeting that game week. Brentford against Ipswich as well. I know the projected goals look a little bit lower on this section. However, when we do come to the 11-5 section, they're a lot higher for game week 9 as well. So people like Brian Mbeumo, Visser back from injury as well. Some of their defensive assets, Pinnock and of course Collins as well from set pieces, definitely going to be looking as appetising options. United against West Ham as well. I don't think there might not be any clean sheets in that one. However, projected goal numbers are looking really good. United as well this season so far creatively have been a pretty good side. I do feel they just need somebody to go and take these chances that they are creating. So that could be a decent one. As well, Spurs look very convincing again. Another strong performance from them. Another good showing in terms of goal creations as well. So again, a pretty strong fixture for them coming up as well. And then the big one on Sunday, the Super Sunday game, Arsenal versus Liverpool. So maybe it could be looking to time to obviously move off Bukayo Saka with him not featuring, and the fixtures starting to get a little bit more difficult as well for game week 9 and beyond. Let's go ahead and take a look at that 11-5 data then that I've kind of been alluding to. If you want to go and check this out for yourself, I will leave a link in the description. Starting off first with the clean sheet data over the next 5 game weeks. Despite, Arsenal having a difficult fixture run, they are still fancies to do exceptionally well over that period for clean sheets. So it probably is worth keeping hold of some of their assets. Manchester City as well, no real surprise that they're the top team for game week 9 up against Southampton at home. So Rico Lewis, Gvardiol, definitely decent picks. And again, longer term also look very viable options. Next week, it's going to be a difficult week for Liverpool defenders. Only a 17% chance of a clean sheet away at the Emirates. However, if Saka's injury is a little bit more longer term, I do imagine those odds might slightly increase because he is their kind of key creative output. As well, though, after that, there's still some pretty decent ones, so it could be worth holding on to Trent throughout this, I would say, mixed bag of fixtures. However, it does pick up again after game week 12, so it could be only a short-term hold, and Trent could still do exceptionally well across that period. In terms of other teams, I would be maybe having a little bit of a think about. Manchester United longer term are looking, pretty decent. Their expected goals conceded as well this season hasn't been as bad. Brentford are definitely a team I would be looking to target for this week for the cheap defenders. As well with them, the way that they set up, looking to kind of create havoc from set pieces, whether that's throw-ins or corners. We've seen that already in their past 2 games. Wolves, Collins was obviously the main standout with goals and assists. Today, it was Pinnock with the goal as well. Now, some people will be arguing that De Ligt was off the pitch and whether or not he gets that opportunity, but that's the way it goes. And the way that Ipswich have defended so far this season, I definitely could see Brentford scoring at least 1 set-piece goal in that game, and it would not surprise me to see it be Pinnock or Collins as well. So those could be decent options. Everton as well, a very nice steady trajectory over the next few weeks. So Mikalenko, obviously going to be the standout pick at 4.3 million. You've also got Pickford in goal, and of course with Branthwaite edging closer to a return could also be a fantastic pickup. Another team I wanted to highlight, obviously Starting to dip away is Aston Villa. They've got a good fixture in 9. However, after that, I probably would be looking to move away from Konza. I think he won't be benched next week. I think it was just a precaution. Obviously, him coming back from that thigh injury. They didn't want to risk him today. So giving him a little bit more time to go and recover as well. We do have the Champions League games in midweek. And if he plays in those, you do feel like he should be available for the weekend as well. Wolves as well. Matchday 9 isn't probably the best hop-on point. It probably is looking a little bit more desirable to be 10. However, I still think it could be a decent shout to go and pick up Ait Nouri. However, do remember he is on 3 yellow cards, and if he does pick one up in the City game tomorrow, 4, I do think that maybe kind of puts me off potentially going for him, but massive attacking potential in that regard. Let's move on to the projected goals then from 11ify again. As we can see that Manchester City won a lot higher than the Fantasy Football Hub projected goals model. Southampton have been absolutely abysmal this season, completely bottling a 2-0 lead today as well. Haaland triple captain definitely could be on the cards. My only concern with it is sandwiched between a Champions League game and a Carabao Cup game against Spurs, so maybe Haaland might not see the full 90. However, his minutes so far this season have been pretty decent, and I do think it is a great opportunity if you are looking to use that triple captainship this week to go for it with Erling Haaland as well. But this is all dependent on how creative I would say City look against Wolves as well. Whether or not KDB's back and Foden starting to fire as well could also be worth some consideration. Obviously, there's no real surprise that Liverpool, their kind of projected goal numbers for game week 9 are pretty low. However, after that, it is back-to-back home games against a Brighton defence that has been pretty leaky so far this season, conceding a lot of chances. Very fortunate to come away with a clean sheet today away at Newcastle. And as well in matchday 11, another home fixture against Villa. Then, of course, in game week 12, they do play, what's the team's name? Leicester away. Or is it Southampton? No, it's Southampton away. So I think Salah could still be a pretty decent hold. Obviously, match day 9, not the greatest fixture, but 10, 11 and 12, I don't really see any other kind of standout fixtures in here that with teams that I probably would want to be target. So I think it's still a pretty decent hold for Mohamed Salah if he looks good again tomorrow. Spurs, obviously some decent numbers there. So obviously Son is a player we're going to talk about a little bit later, but you know, Maddison, Johnson, they do have a plethora of decent options as well. We're seeing a little bit of a dip in terms of Arsenal's fixtures. So for me, even with, you know, Saka not being available for this game week, I still think longer term he's probably a player I would be looking to start to potentially move off as well. Interestingly, Brighton and Brentford have pretty decent projected goal numbers for match day 9 as well, so maybe some 1 week punts could be decent in there, but I think Brian and Mbeumo definitely will be a good long-term hold as well. That was the team data. Now let's go and take a look at some players I'm going to be recommending to you for game week 9. Starting off, our first player that I'm going to recommend you go and pick up, of course, it's going to be Son. I was umming and ahhing on the deadline whether or not to make that move for Bukayo Saka. I'm so thankful that I did. He had plenty of great opportunities as well, hitting the post. Could have had 2 to 3 big opportunities as well. He's an absolute wonderful player as well. I wouldn't even be worried that his data doesn't look absolutely impressive, because that's Son. His data always looks a little bit like this. He's one of the best natural finishers in the Premier League. And the big appeal for me for Son, I was already going to move to him next week, regardless of the Saka news, but obviously some stuff kind of just swayed me to going for Son this week, taking a little bit of a gamble. But what obviously swayed me to making that move to Son early doors is because of that game week 11 fixture, Ipswich at home. If we look to some of the other teams as well, Manchester City have got Brighton away. It's not the worst fixture. Liverpool have Villa as well at home. Again, probably not one where you're going to feel 100% confident captaining Mohamed Salah. Saka and Arsenal don't have a great fixture that week as well. Chelsea obviously don't have a great fixture. I think actually they play off against each other, don't they? It is Arsenal and Chelsea that week. So not a great set of fixtures in match day 11 in terms of captaincy. But one man that does is Son, and definitely a player that is worthy of captaincy material as well. Obviously, he saw reduced minutes today, but that is because he's coming back from an injury, so I wouldn't kind of consider that something that's going to happen every single week. I feel his minutes will be a lot more secure. Crystal Palace have looked very, very wobbly at the moment. Villa can't keep a clean sheet to save their lives. And then I said that Ipswich fixture, them and Southampton do look like some of the worst teams in the Premier League this season, and definitely a fixture that a lot of us are going to be looking to target. And like I said, there aren't really any other kind of standout big captaincy options, and I think Son could be that guy. And I think as well what he does as well is he has a difficult fixture in 12, and it allows you to, I would say, kind of bank free transfers for the next weeks, use Son as the captaincy there, then of course look to look to then make that switch to Cole Palmer, who plays Leicester away in game week 12, or obviously Saka's run starts to pick up around game week 13 as well. So I think Son is the perfect player for the next 3 game weeks to go and have a little bit of fun with. Obviously that great captaincy option like I spoke about in 11, then post that as well, you could obviously sell him off for the City game, but he's actually got a pretty good record at the Etihad anyway, so maybe you could keep him for that more difficult fixture. Then it's Fulham at home following that, but I think for me it's probably going to be the point where I hop off and of course jump onto Cole Palmer. Let's continue. Let's take a look at the next 2 players I'm going to recommend. Probably not this week. Maybe you could argue game week 10 is probably the better one to go and pick up, but it is the 2 Wolves players that I do have my eye on and will be scouting in tomorrow's game against Manchester City, and I'll be highly recommending you do the same. Of course, it is Cunha and it is Ait Nouri. I feel a lot of people that have maybe gone for Dominic Solanke, you know, Jamie Vardy, DCL will definitely be looking at alternative replacements, and I do feel like Cunha is a very, very viable option. A really good player, capable of some magical things. We saw that with his hat-trick last season as well. Has started the season actually pretty decently as well, putting up good data as well to go with that, despite playing for a Wolves tight side that have only picked up 1 point. Now they've got this great run all the way up until the Christmas period, so again, could be a real nice, easy hold for the long term as well. So I'm a big fan of the Cunha move. Definitely a player that is capable, and I think for that 6.5 million could be a great enabling forward as well. Moving on to the other one, it is of course going to be Ait Nouri. Like I said at the start of the section, we saw that Wolves trajectory in terms of the clean sheet percentages starting to creep up a little bit. This guy, as you can see here, has been doing well from the attacking standpoint as well. And when you watch him from an eye test perspective, he is a wonderful, phenomenal player to go and watch, and definitely one I really, really want to go and get in my team. Currently at 4.4 million. I don't know whether that's going to hold, especially if he has a decent performance against Manchester City, because a lot of people will be looking at that and will want to jump on him. I've kind of tweaked around with my side, and it will be game week 10 that I will obviously be going and bringing him in for. But Brighton defensively have been a little bit questionable so far this season. Their XG conceded isn't amazing, and again, Wolves could go and get something out of that game. Obviously with Ait Nouri, I did say this earlier as well, he is currently sat on 3 yellow cards, so if he does pick up another one, that takes him to 4. If you get to 5 in the Premier League before Christmas, of course that does mean a 1-game suspension, and that's not ideal when we would like to have him for as many games as we can across this great run coming up for Wolves. So I do feel if he picks up a yellow card in the next 2, it maybe puts me off him a little bit, but at the same time, I think sometimes you've got to have a little bit of fun and risk with these picks, and he is a player that has massive, massive upside for 4.4 million. Right, let's move on to our next player, and it is going to be somebody that I actually mentioned on the FPL Raptor podcast last week, and it was Raul Jimenez. Obviously duly delivered again with another goal, and as we can see here, I would say the next 4 fixtures are very, very decent if you are in the market for a cheap forward. Maybe you've had enough of obviously DCL blanking, you've just thrown in the towel, you don't think it's going to work for him. Everton away next. Obviously Everton have now kept back-to-back clean sheets, so maybe not as an easy fixture on paper. Brentford at home. Brentford have actually been pretty dismal for XG conceded this season, so not something we usually expect from them as well. Palace away, great fixture. Wolves at home, great fixture as well. You know, despite Wolves, obviously me recommending some Wolves players in the last section, they are still down the bottom. They're still struggling to pick up points so far this season. And when I am picking up Ait Nouri, I'm not really expecting too much in terms of the clean sheets. Like I said, it does seem like it is the Raul Jimenez of old, the old Wolves Raul Jimenez, prime like 2018, 2019, when he could do no wrong in that Wolves side and was an absolutely wonderful, vibrant, fantastic player. I'm so glad he's managed to get his kind of head back in the game and start enjoying football again. And like I said, he could be a fantastic differential forward for you and your sides to go and pick up this week. Finishing up, I wanted to take a look at cheap... Actually, no, I didn't want to take a look at cheap defenders. I haven't put it on here. Let's do that in a second. It is the predicted points for the next few game weeks. We'll come back to look at the defenders in a second. But yeah, starting off with the predicted points for the next 5 game weeks, I do feel this is a useful tool for obviously looking at players we probably want to bring in, and of course some players, kind of the more premium ones, starting to dip out as well. No real shock, it is kind of Haaland and Salah leading the way over the next few, especially with that Southampton game in 9. It would be interesting to see how he actually fares after that in terms of those projected points, because a lot of the models FPL review do actually recommend taking out Erling Haaland in game week 10, so that's going to be a very, very interesting one to see how that does. Obviously, we can start to see a diminishing returns for Saka in terms of those projected points, obviously with him missing out today, and of course with results starting to flag away as well. I think Brian and Mbeumo definitely a very, very solid pick in there. Same with Chris Wood as well. Some decent fixtures coming up for Nottingham Forest, so could be a decent option as well. Cunha also makes the list, as we can see a little bit further down, and Raul Jimenez as well. Like I said, they're the projected points, but let's go and take a look at those cheap defenders. And here's the slide I actually wanted to show you in the last section. Usually we do finish up on predicted points, but today we are mixing it up. We're going to finish off with cheap defenders. I always get asked every single stream pretty much which are the best cheap defenders, and I feel this is something we might kind of do over the next few weeks, kind of just keep this theme going. If that's something you want to see more, let me know in the comment section as well, and maybe we could get like a cheap forwards as well and cheap midfielders kind of tally going and kind of do this every single week. But let me know if you think that's a potentially viable idea you would be interested in potentially seeing. I've said potentially about 5 times there, but let's dive into some of these players. First up, I'm going to put Martinez in there, but I think Mazraoui, obviously we weren't expecting him to be back for a while. He did come off the bench. If he starts midweek, I would be maybe tempted to obviously go there as well, but obviously let's see how he's doing recovering from that kind of heart condition. A lot of us didn't expect him to kind of be back for a long time, but he is back now, so that bodes quite well. But I think if you were looking for a more kind of solid and just reliable 4.5, I probably would say Martinez. His predicted points are actually quite low because I don't think the Fantasy Football Hub model expected him to play this week or for the projected future weeks as well. So I do think once that updates, that will obviously kind of get a boost and probably be around the 9-point-ish mark, kind of similar to the other cheap defenders on this list. Obviously, I spoke about Brentford being a team to obviously target. They were very, very high up on the 11-5 model in terms of those predicted clean sheets. And again, Collins is on here. The reason I've gone for Collins over Pinnock is more goal involvement so far this season and better expected goal involvements. But if you actually look at their data so far, I think it's 1.1 for Pinnock, 1.4 for Collins as well. I think both are very, very viable options. Like I said, decent fixtures for the next 3 to 5, I think as well. The next 2 after that as well are really, really decent. The only concern I do have with Brentford is their XG conceded so far this season has been a little bit dismal, and that's something we don't usually expect to see from the Bees. However, I do feel like their defenders, or their cheap centre-back defenders as well, always have that aerial threat from corners, free kicks and throw-ins as well, and that is probably why we're seeing Collins do exceptionally well in terms of those predicted points. Not only decent clean sheet data, but of course that attacking threat that they do pose as well. Nottingham Forest next 3 are definitely worth some consideration as well. I do feel after that point though, longer term, you're probably going to want to switch away. They're currently one of the best sides and kind of, you know, for the XG conceded model. That's something we've seen since Nuno's appointment as well. Obviously, you've got Milenkovic and Aina as well in that 4.5 million bracket, so very, very good. Obviously, we've already spoke about Ait Nouri, but I do feel he is probably the standout on this list. Obviously, like I said, if he does avoid a yellow card in that City game as well. 12.3 predicted points for him, the highest on this list. He's also got the highest expected goal involvements and the joint most goal involvements on this list as well. So for me, he is the big standout pick going forward in the cheap defender category. Robinson as well. The Fulham fixtures for the next 5 as well are pretty decent. Everton away is probably going to be a little bit more difficult now, of course, that they have lost Anderson as well. He's been a big part of their kind of resurgence in terms of their expected goals conceded and recent strong defensive performances as well. So that's going to obviously have a little bit of an kind of impact. But obviously, if you've still got Robinson, I definitely think he is a hold for the next few as well. It's a shame that Everton and Palace games on home fixtures, or I probably would have had him a lot higher up on this list. Moving on to Mykolenko. There we go. Mykolenko, again, I definitely think he's worth picking up. The next 5 for Everton are really, really decent. Fulham, Southampton and West Ham as well. 4.3 million. You can't really complain about that. A 7-pointer today. Back-to-back clean sheets for Everton as well. And that's without Branthwaite obviously being back within the side yet as well. He's very, very close apparently to being back. And obviously I do feel when he's fit and available, he will be a fantastic asset that can obviously slide into that back line. Those were my transfer targets for Game Week 9. Let me know what you think of them down in the comments section below. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in, as I will try to answer as many as I possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in Game Week 9.